Okay, Keith here, Beat the Casino. I wanted to talk a little bit about our Edge Blackjack series that I'm starting. There's a lot of blackjack players, and I think it's important to understand the game, understand the rules, understand really where the advantage is derived in blackjack. What are the traditional ways to play, and also what are some of the more modern and non-random ways to play, as we used to call it, clump style blackjack. So I thought I'd start. Usually when you start learning blackjack, the first thing they throw at you is a basic strategy chart, and they tell you to learn these rules and always play this way, and that's certainly part of it. We'll learn basic strategy and when to apply it. However, I don't want to start there because I don't think it's the best place to start. I think the first thing to do, I got these Monarch cards. They're pretty actually nice. Get a load of that one, huh? It's actually the best place to start is, understanding what you're trying to do. It looks like everything's here. What you're trying to do with the cards and with blackjack. So, the first thing I want you to understand is that we usually, and I'm going to use what's called the basic high-low count structure, okay? And there's a lot of different ways to count cards, but this is certainly one of the simplest ways, and it's certainly effective. And we'll separate the first thing I want to do is separate the high cards from the low cards and talk about that a little bit. And maybe some of this stuff and some of it you don't. I noticed one thing about blackjack players is their ego tends to be a little big. They think that it's some sort of rocket science that they're doing, and I'm going to disprove that it's really not rocket science. Okay, it's really kind of just real simple math. Simple, not necessarily even math, simple arithmetic. Somebody figured out how to beat the game when the cards are random. Now, we're going to talk a lot about random cards, and basic strategy and non-random cards and all this and that. We're going to get into a lot of different things, a lot of different theories of blackjack. But it is basic arithmetic. It's not even mathematics, okay? And it's memorizing card play. So I want to dismiss the myth that it is some sort of extremely difficult and, it takes a genius to do it type thing. But I think maybe you know that. It's all kind of hype, okay? So what I did is I separated the deck, and we'll start with one deck. Of course, we play with multiple decks. All that stuff's coming, but I wanted to get a good foundation so that you understand the basics and see really how simple it actually is to understand the game, understand where your edge comes from, and what's the best way to play in a lot of different circumstances. So I grouped the cards into high cards and low cards, and again, there's other counts. There's unbalanced counts, but we're going to start with the basics. And any variation, too, I want to just emphasize, it's not really rocket science. It takes some genius to figure this out. It's just little variations of the game that in different circumstances with more decks or less decks or different rules give you just a little bit better edge, okay? There are two schools of thought in blackjack. So far as the cards go, one of them came about in the early 50s, late 50s, early 60s is card counting, and that's what we're going to talk about first. The premise that card counting is based upon was founded with, not the premise, but it was founded when most people played with one deck or two decks at most. And so, that's how it started. The thing with one deck is it's very easy to randomize one deck, okay? When we started adding more decks, we got into folks who started talking about non-random strategies, about the cards not being shuffled enough, about the cards being picked up in specific orders and that continuing throughout the game. And that certainly lends itself to another strategy. So those are the two schools of thoughts, okay? One of the things I want to make clear is that no one argues at least from my perspective, about the only arguments I get are that the cards are either random or they're not random. If the cards are random, the best way to play the game is pretty much basic strategy with little variation. Of course, again, as I talk about a lot, is that the cards have to be random. And if the cards are not random, then they lend themselves to some sort of predictability, and basic strategy will be beat. No one argues with the mathematics of basic strategy. As a matter of fact, when guys come into the forum and they expound all the numbers and everything that's been regurgitated for years and years and years and years, explaining the variance of card counting and why this and why that, that's all fine and dandy, and it's all true if the cards are random. And that's our only contention, is that sometimes the cards are not random. So understand, no one is arguing against the count strategies or anything like that. What they don't accept is that the game sometimes is non-random, which they have a hard time understanding, I think. Anyway, I digress a little bit. So we set up the cards. Let's talk about traditional card counting with one deck and what exactly we're trying to do. And it does translate to the other decks. It's a little bit with a little bit of enhancement to it. So it does scale to the other decks. But if you understand the basics with one decks, it'll scale to the other decks, and the concepts are still the same. Okay, so I ordered the cards in high cards, and again, this is a simple high-low count, and we should have 20 high cards. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, ba-bing. And we should have 20 low cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. And the rest are neutral 12, right? 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 52 cards in one deck. Okay, so high cards and low cards. So by the rules of the game, the way the game is played, high cards favor the player. And there's one reason that high cards favor the player, okay, is that they favor the player because the dealer must hit with certain hands totals, and the player has the option not to hit. So when there's more high cards left in the deck and the dealer has to hit and the player can stand, that 10 card will pretty much always break them, okay, with a stiff hand. Okay, so here's our low cards. Now, the first thing I want you to understand is that the object that card counters are trying to do is they're trying to locate where the 10s are if there's an abundance of them, okay? Also, I want you to understand that the only rule that you have to overcome in blackjack when you're playing traditional blackjack with rules is that if you both break on the same hand, the dealer wins. Every other rule favors the player. You can bet whatever you want. Sometimes you can split, you can buy insurance, you can double. Think of all the rules. You can surrender in some cases. All those rules don't favor the dealer. They give you another option. Oh, and here's the most important one. You can play your cards any way you want to, can't you? The dealer can only play his card one way. They must always hit the 17. Okay, so let's now that we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that a little bit. But let's say, for instance, if we're dealing out of this deck, and let's just use high cards and low cards for now, okay? And let's shuffle these together, mix them up a little bit. And let's forget about the rules for a second. Let's just play a game, and we'll call it 21, just to demonstrate the point of if you both break on the same hand. Now, is that fair? Well, if you both break on the same hand, if you break and then the dealer subsequently breaks, the dealer keeps your money, right? That's a tie, okay? So basically, when you have a break tie, when you both break, the dealer wins, okay? But let's say, for instance, that rule didn't apply. Okay, so just for demonstration purposes, if we each deal 2 cards to each player and we both have to play to hit the 17, who in the long run is going to win? Well, nobody. It's going to be a dead even game because you're just going to get as many breakable hands and hit with a 10 as the dealer will. Okay, here the dealer just happened to win this one, or whoever you're figuring is the dealer. It's going to be a push. It's just going to go back and forth. You're going to win one. The dealer's going to win one. Okay, we'll just call that 21, 20. Okay, you're just playing war up to 21 because no one will actually win. And the dealer broke. So you're just playing war, basically, without that rule. So you're going to win by luck. So it's a 50-50 gamble. Now, if you add the blackjack in there like we got, pays 1.5, well, then the player, if would get paid 1.5 to 1, the player would have a small advantage playing that game then, okay? But then they added the rule that says, well, geez, if you break and then the dealer subsequently breaks, well, he didn't break there, let's see, who wins? The dealer. Okay, he doesn't give your money back after he breaks, okay? So that's the only rule you have to overcome, okay? So I want to make that clear. Now, what are we trying to do? They usually teach you these best way to play hands where you can gain an advantage, and then they add indexes to them and whatnot. But let's talk about card counting for a second, because that's what I want you to learn first, okay? Is how do you count the cards? Well, counting the cards is simply just adding one and subtracting one on a running scale. Okay, the low cards count +1. The high cards count -1. Now remember, the minus cards are player favorable. So if you have a minus count, then that's dealer favorable. If you have a plus count, that's player favorable. Okay? So let's take a look at this. That means, what does that mean? Well, let's take a look at it. Okay. So if we'll call this, I guess we'll call this the dealer. Okay. So when we're counting cards, that'll be down, and the player's usually dealt up, okay? The low cards count +1. The high cards count -1. Now, the way you want to count them is don't go +1, 0. Just group them together. It always starts at 0. Okay, so here the count's 0. Now here it's -1, but let's see what we're going to do here first. This is a soft 15, right? Okay. So there we hit it with a 6. Okay, so now we're at 21. Doesn't get much better than that. Now, all you have to do for the count here is realize that a high card and a low card is 0. A high card and a low card is 0. So the count's 0. This would be -1, then back to 0, then -1, then back to 0. But you just group them together. Some people go 2, 2, that way too. So we have 21, so the dealer turns over. Okay, now, since it's an individual card, to count, I just wait. Okay, I still think 0. And there's another high card now. So it's 0 again, okay? Now the dealer must hit, okay? So he's at 14, 15, just wait. Break, okay? Now, we were at 0 at this point, right? And then 2 low cards, or high cards, I'm sorry. So the count is -2. That means, all that means is this, is that there's two more high cards, 2 more low cards, I'm sorry, in this deck than there are high cards. And if we would drill them out, you'd see that. And why are low cards favorable to the dealer? Because when the dealer has to hit, if there's more low cards, the dealer has less of a chance to break. Okay, so if we deal them all out, just to take a look, we said there should be 2 more low cards than high cards. So we're going to find out here if we're counting right. And 4, 5. Okay, so let's count them. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 high cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay? 17 low cards. Okay. So, what does that mean? It means that we're 2 high cards short. So, this is a -2 count. This is a -2 deck. Okay? That's all this is. That means there's two more high cards in this deck than there are low cards. So there's 2 more opportunities, okay, if the dealer has 17 or less, when they hit, that they're going to get a low card. That's all that means. It's like doing the beads. It's doing the beads, okay? So if we deal this hand, let's see what happens here, okay? Remember, don't count yet. Let's make this the player. Okay. Okay, so now we have a bunch of low cards. Okay, so we were at -2. Okay, now we're at 0, +1. Okay, but we're going to hit, probably stand there, +2, right? +3, +4, +5. Okay, so now it's very player favorable. It's +5. There's 5 more high cards in here. Okay, if we check it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so we didn't shuffle. So I did that on purpose because I wanted to demonstrate to you one thing, which I'm going to talk about. And since this is just the high-level overview, when you're dealing from low cards, basic strategy teaches you to always stand when the dealer has a low card up and you have a total that's stiff for the most part, most of the time. Okay? I wanted to demonstrate that when you're dealing out of low cards, the dealer cannot break. The only way the dealer can break is with a high card. Okay? So even though the count can be high, okay, 6, 8, 8, 13, okay. So this would be the situation, and you would ultimately stand there, okay. He would turn over a 6, and what would happen? He could hit it with impunity and beat you all the time, okay. So that's what happens in low card clumps when the cards are not random, okay. It beats basic strategy, even though the count's rising. The converse is also true. When you're dealing mostly from high cards, okay, you do have a little bit of an advantage with the blackjack, but you'll push a lot of blackjacks. When you're dealing from a high card clump, what's going to happen? You're going to push hands that you generally win, okay? Right? That happens, okay? You count on winning those hands, don't you? Now, can the dealer break? Nope. There he's got a blackjack. Okay, so he beat you. So consequently, high card clumps and low card clumps are not good. Okay, the cards need to be random for basic strategy to work really well. Okay, and it's really a real short advantage too. I mean, it's not a really huge advantage. But it is, in fact, an advantage if you learn how to count. So we talked about basically what is the rule that you're trying to overcome in blackjack. And that is if you both break in the same hand, the dealer wins. All the other rules favor the player. We talked about counting. Okay, we separate the cards from high cards and low cards. And all we're trying to identify while counting is how many more 10s are there. Are there more 10s or are there less 10s left in this deck? That's all we're trying to do. If there's more low cards, it favors now the neutral cards usually don't help or hurt either one. That's why they call them neutral. Now, they do have an effect. I mean, a 9 will bust the dealer once in a while, an 8 will bust the dealer, a 7 will bust the dealer. But with some of the lower hands, it pretty much will even out. If they have a 13 and hit it with an 8, right? Okay? So that's why 10s are disadvantaged to the dealer. Okay. So if we deal we'll see a different complexion in the game now. We put in the neutral cards and everything else. When we're counting, remember, the first thing you want to do, I'll just put that down. Okay, so here, we'll talk about basic strategy in the next video, but this is a soft 15. Okay, remember counting, you just group those. This is -1, okay? There's a neutral card. Now we're at 13, okay? We'd probably hit against a 10. And we break there, 13, okay? Okay. So again, to count, okay, let's turn this over. So blackjack didn't matter, okay? So to count, you group these, that's 0. And look, 1, 2, 3, -3, and that's a neutral card. So it's -3. So you don't want to bet too much, okay? -3. There's 3 more low cards in this deck right now. So that's going to favor the dealer, okay? So let's do a couple more. Oh, let's turn that over. Okay. Well, 16 against a 3. okay? You're going to group these as still -3. Turn this over, still -3. You group those two, high card and low card, which equals 0. Now the dealer must hit. Okay, now remember, it's -3. That means there's 3 extra low cards in this deck, okay? Well, let's hope they don't show their face now, huh? Okay, we got lucky. Now it's -4, okay? Okay, -4, you still don't want to bet a lot. Okay, so let's go ahead and deal one more. Do it that way. Okay, 18. Okay, -4, -5. If he has to hit, there's probably going to be a low card. -5, -4. Now let's see what happens. 13 in, -4 count with a single deck. Broke again. -5. Okay, let's try one more. Don't bet a lot. Okay, I think we said we were at -5, no change. Okay, -4, we're going to stand. -4, -3, -4. He's got a hit, right? Oh, and he broke with a 6. Okay, -3. Okay. Oh no, that's 15, 21. Sorry about that. I thought I had 16. Okay, so there you see it, you know, the richness of the low cards, and then they finally caught one to beat you, okay? Okay, so you kind of get the idea. So what you want to practice, the first thing to do when you're practicing is don't learn the basic strategies chart, is just get yourself a deck of cards, and this is the first way. There's a lot of ways to practice, but I just want you to start with 2 hands, and it doesn't matter which ones you call the dealer or player, okay? But I want you to start grouping cards as you see them. And you can play the hands if you want. Like this is an 11. He'd hit, say, with double. Okay, 17. So when you're counting this, you group the neutral cards, which count nothing. You group a high card and a low card, which count nothing. And then anything left over, here's a low card, you count +1. So this would be, we're at +1. And then deal out some more hands. Okay? Okay. So +1, that's 0, right? Here's a 13, that would stand. So we're at +1, a +2, still +2. Dealer has to hit. +2, +1, neutral, 21. Okay. So that's how you want to kind of get used to counting. Okay. You don't want to go through like this: -1, -2. Okay, -1. That does you no good. That isn't how the cards in the casino are dealt. Start very slow by looking at 2 hands, and I'm probably doing this a little bit backwards, but and grouping cards. That could be -2. Okay, this is 0. Okay, so 0, -1, -2. This would hit. -1. 21. Okay, so if again, to my point is, if you simply wait for the round to be over, it's a little easier to group cards. That equals 0, and then that equals 0. So we're at a 0 count. Okay. Okay, so that's called the running count, and with a single deck, it's also the count per deck. We'll talk a little bit. We'll talk a lot about the count per deck and the running count over the next couple videos. But that's the first thing. I wanted you to get the basics. I wanted you to understand the rule that you're trying to beat, and I wanted to understand what counters are trying to do, which is locate 10s, whether there's a 10 rich deck or whether there's a low card rich deck, and make your bets according to that, the size of your bets. We'll learn basic strategy and stuff, and then we'll also learn the non-randomness of cards and what happens, as I showed you when I dealt from all 10s and all low cards, okay, what happens and how to play against those things. It does lend itself to some unique opportunities. Okay, so that's the first video in the Edge Blackjack series here. So I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned a little bit from it, and we'll talk more about it in the next video when we get to basic strategy. Okay, thanks a lot.